everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Endurance Matters podcast. I have the pleasure today of having on Andy Donaldson. For those that don't know Andy, he's a world-class ultra marathon swimmer. He's done some absolutely mind-boggling stuff in the water, including completing the Ocean 7, where he was the fastest person in history to complete all 7 channels within 1 year. And that's 200K of swimming. I was trying to wrap my head around that today. It's 200K of swimming or 53 Ironman swims for the triathlon listeners out there. So I did a little quick math on that one. Andy, welcome to the show.
Mitch, thanks for having us on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, great to have you. You know, we're doing a little bit of time zone calculations here. Andy's over in Australia. We're evening time here in Colorado. I start off the podcast here with a icebreaker question. So the first one I've got for you today is, out of all the places that you've swum in the world, which is pretty much everywhere, what is the cleanest body of water and the dirtiest body of water?
Oh, you've thrown a curveball straight away. This is not an easy question to answer. I have to say, I've been fortunate to swim in amazing places all around the world. You know, Japan, the Middle East, Europe. I'd have to put my favorite is Hawaii. The waters around, especially Maui, just that aqua blue you would have known racing over there in your triathlons. Like, it's just nothing like it. It's so nice. So that would be up there. Maybe a close second, the Red Sea in Egypt. Dirtiest water. I might land myself in a bit of trouble here. I've swum around Manhattan Island in New York. I used to hold the world record for fastest time, and surprisingly, that was not too bad. But yeah, I don't have a dirtiest water. I'm not gonna. And it wasn't even Manhattan was actually okay. So.
It's funny you say that, because I was in, my parents live just outside Manhattan. My dad works in Manhattan, and I was visiting my grandparents last week and running along the Hudson River. And the smell, you just can't put your finger on what that smell is. So we might not classify it as the dirtiest, but I'm going up there with smelliest for sure.
Maybe you wouldn't jump in by choice, but in terms of polluted or dirty, like I was supposed to do a swim down the Thames this year, so that would have been up there because there's a lot of sewage pollution issues. I unfortunately had to drop out of that campaign, but I think there's a real need to clean up a few waterways all around the world and make them more swimmable.
Yeah, 100%. Well, cool. Yeah, why don't you start off a little bit by telling us, where you grew up, how you got into swimming, and sort of just take us back to the beginning.
Of course. So I grew up in the west coast of Scotland. You know, open water swimming wasn't really a thing there, but pool swimming was. And I followed my sister and my older cousin into the sport, came through as a competitive pool swimmer with aspirations to race the 200 metres for Great Britain at the Olympics and Scotland at the Commonwealth Games. Unfortunately, fell short of those aspirations, but discovered open water after moving to Australia and much later in life. And during COVID, everything was locked down. But one of the few things we could do was swim in the ocean. And so I started doing that every morning, fell back in love with it, started racing in the open water, taking on these bigger and longer events. I'm sure you know that feeling where it's a bit of a snowball effect and it's a slippery slope. You do one and like, all right, what's the next one? And what's the next one? And before I knew it, I was doing these crazy channel swims all around the world and throwing my hat in the ring with some of the most turbulent and challenging waters on the planet. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. It's not been a straight line, certainly a lot of ups and downs, but you know, I love it. And I just being out there in the ocean and challenging yourself in Mother Nature, where it is so unpredictable and there's so many uncontrollables and variables. I really thrive in that and really, got a lot of joy out of that entire process.
Yeah, very cool. Starting off in the pool, I'm curious to hear more about what your experience in the pool and maybe what led you to stop swimming competitively in the indoor pool environment.
Well, the thing with pool swimming is such a controlled environment, and I certainly found that it was very black and white with the results. So you could train like an absolute animal for an entire year. You get to your big major event, and something goes wrong in the prep, or you get ill. You don't sleep well the night before, and if you don't hit those times or your PBs, or you qualify, if you don't qualify, your whole season has been summed up in less than 2 minutes of racing. So it's very cutthroat. And I think for me, as someone growing up in the west of Scotland, I think I lacked that belief in myself to make that final jump up to, all right, I deserve to be up in this level. I've done the work. I didn't have the results that sort of reinforced that belief that I'm this international level swimmer that can race all around the world and I can qualify for these events. I always just fell short on race day, and I almost psyched myself out. And I think it's one of those things. What you believe becomes your truth or reality. If you don't believe you're good enough, you'll never allow yourself to actually go on and make that step. And in my mid-20s, I'd been doing it for a good sort of 15 years and not reaching those goals and seeing my friends go on and qualify for teams and race at the Olympic Games. And I just couldn't keep doing it. I didn't have another 4 years in me. So I stepped out of the sport. I thought my chapter with swimming was done and threw myself into a 9-to-5 and pursued my career in accounting.
Okay. And is that what brought you out to Australia?
Yeah, well, I'd moved. I used to train at Loughborough University in England. So
yep.
The guys in the UK might know that well. It's where British Swimming had one of their major bases. And yeah, life was good, but I wanted a fresh challenge and a fresh scene to be in. And yeah, open water had never really been something I'd thought about. It was the furthest thing from my mind. But when you go out to a place like Australia, where it's just so woven into the fabric of everyday life, you naturally find yourself gravitating towards it and trying these new things. It's such a sporty country, and everyone's doing something there, which is just amazing to see.
Sure. Well, there's a big difference between, hopping into the sea and swimming 2K and doing, Ocean 7. So talk to me a little bit about, when you get to Australia and it's COVID and you're getting into the open water, what was the ramp up to maybe taking it more seriously and getting back into training and that sort of thing? What did that look like once you got to Australia?
Well, I'd been living there for a few years, and I'd been out of the sport for maybe 3 or 4 years. And COVID was when I got back in. And I just fell in love with it again. And I was coming from this place of, all right, there's no pressure here. I'm not doing this to perform or get results. I'm just doing it from a pure place of enjoyment. And, I'd had some mental health troubles. I found that I realized just how much swimming was helping me with that well-being aspect of things. And it didn't happen straight away. I started coaching to get more people into open water swimming and helping them towards achieving their goals. And one of the gentlemen that was there, he kind of called me out. He's like, you're helping all these people achieve your goals. When are you going to go and revisit some of your own? And he kind of called me out. So although it wasn't the same goals and the aspirations of old in the pool, I wanted to set some new targets. And in Western Australia, we've got this huge event called the Rottnest Channel Swim. It's 19.7 kilometres from the mainland to an island, this beautiful tropical island out in the ocean. About 3,000 swimmers take it on every year, and you can either do it as a solo or in a team of 4 or in a team of 2. And I thought I'd give that a crack. So that became my new goal. I started training up again. Was very careful not to go hard too quickly and too far out. This was maybe about 10 months out. My coach and I, we really wanted to emphasize quality and being smart with our approach rather than, hard work will always get you somewhere, but smart work will take you that one step further. And so how could we approach this as clinically as possible? Because in this race, there was guys in the Australian Dolphins team entered, people that hadn't spent the last 4 years out of the water, and they were a lot fitter and faster than I was. But could we perhaps train in a way that was smarter? So looking at different things like our nutrition, how we're recovering, swimming strategies. Could I do things like go to the gym before a training session and create fatigue in my muscles so that it replicated the second half of a swim, rather than doing a 10K set where it's maybe not as quality as you'd like? Could we do something a bit differently and just get those same outcomes, but in a smarter way, and where we can bounce back and not just be in a hole for month on end,
Yeah. Did you have the plan to take it pretty seriously once you got back into it and you set this goal of doing the 19K swim? It seems like you maybe reestablished the relationship with your coach. Did you have a runway immediately towards doing more of these events, and you saw a pathway to this taking it pretty seriously? Or were you just like, okay, I'm going to try to take this one event seriously and see how it goes?
It was one at a time. Yeah, it was one at a time. I think if you want to do something well, you've got to focus. You're not got one eye on the goal and one eye on the one after. For me, this was a second chance, or like this, an opportunity to rewrite the script. Let's see what shape I can get into, really give this one everything, and just enjoy the process as well. If I've done everything right, if in my preparation I've gone and executed the best race possible, the result doesn't really matter, because there's so many things outside of my control. I can't control how the other guys are going to race. I can't control the weather on the day, which ultimately impacts the time, because it doesn't matter how quick you are. If the currents are bad, if it's choppy or the wind's in your face, you're not going to break records. So I really liked that aspect of these longer events where, yeah, being fast and strong is only one aspect of it, but that mental side of it as well, I think, is so powerful. And testing yourself there, really teaches you a lot about your character and how you respond to adversity and all these things that are just so translatable into other aspects of life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I feel like Ironman distance triathlon is similar in that way, that the day is so long that there is this competitive element, but there's also this element of self-exploration that's kind of bigger than the outcome or the result on the paper. So I could see how it maybe be attractive to go long. So talk to me a little bit about, like, when you did that race and you finished it, A, how did it go? And B, where was your mindset after that first one?
So there was about a 10-month lead in, and I'd got myself from basically zero fitness to probably the best shape I've ever been in. It was just amazing. And went out, we planned really well. You want to be, and I'm sure it's the same with an Ironman or a 70.3, you want to have prepared everything for every possible challenge, so that when you're there on the start line, you've got a clear mind and you're not thinking about anything else. You just turn up and execute. And our race strategy was, I wanted to be going out faster than everyone else, but just at a pace that was quicker and more sustainable, because I didn't have the back end speed to finish. If it was going to be tight at the end, I wasn't going to be able to outswim this competition. They would have come past me. So in training, my goal was, right, if I can hold 112 pace all the way across here, when everyone else is comfortable at 115, then they're not in the race anymore by the time we get to the end. They're so far back. And that's what happened. So I went straight up to the front, held this 112 pace, which is 5Ks an hour. And everyone was burning to try stay with me to the 10. And it was still fairly tight within 100 meters. But then by 15K, that gap had blown out to about 700 meters. And I was hurting, but I knew that if I can just sustain this pace, I don't have to come home flash. I just need to get back and finish safely. And it was really special because I could enjoy that last couple 100 meters into the finish, knowing that I was first, and I could really soak in this moment, and I don't have to defend this position or speed up. And so, when your toes touch down on the other side, and you've been horizontal for 4 hours, you come up as it's a funny feeling. I mean, even in a triathlon, I'm sure that transition's a bit funny with going from horizontal to vertical. Imagine after 4 hours, and you've got to run up this ramp, and there's all these people on the island that have come across for the day, and this huge blow-up arch. But I don't know, it's that adrenaline, it just takes over and kicks in. And I remember crossing the line and just letting out this full-on scream of just pure joy that we'd come through this journey. And it was like rewriting the script of, right, I can do this, I am capable, and if I apply myself right, I can get the results. But it was the journey that was more important. The result obviously is amazing, and it was only 4 minutes off the record in some fairly average weather. So A, I realized I'm not bad at this. B, I'm still hungry to go on and do more and test myself. And C, I'd been raising money for a mental health charity, and we'd raised, I think, about $12,000 doing this swim. And I realized maybe the three of them could be combined, and I can go on and take on more challenges, pursue these goals in something that I love doing and that I'm good at. But maybe we can inject a bit of purpose into this as well, and raise some money for causes close to my heart, and share some powerful messages like, it's not too late to pursue your dreams, or showcasing the importance of having good preparation and a solid team around you on that journey. Because it's not just the preparation, but if you've got other people with you along the way, you get to celebrate that journey and the result with them as well, which makes it even more special and enriching.
Yeah, very cool. And yeah, so from that point forward, I guess walk me through, maybe fast forward me through what's next after that, right? Like, this event itself seemed pretty competitive in nature. Like, you were trying to, win the race, push yourself to the max. At what point do you shift things maybe to doing things that haven't been done before, or doing events faster than folks have done before, like swimming around Manhattan, or doing the Ocean 7? When do those start coming into play?
It was about a year after Rottnest, and I was looking at things like the English Channel, and that's when I learned, the English Channel, growing up in the UK, that's like the Everest of swimming. The thing that is the bucket list item. It's got the longest history. It's 150 years since the first guy did the English Channel, Captain Matthew Webb. So everyone knows about it. And so I was reading up on the challenge and learned that it was part of this wider collection of swims called the Ocean 7. And the Ocean 7 are the 7 toughest, most iconic channel swims in the world. Things like the English Channel, swimming from Molokai to Oahu, over in Hawaii. There's one in Japan between two of the islands there, Spain to Morocco, Ireland to Scotland, Catalina to Los Angeles, and the Cook Strait, which is between the islands of New Zealand. And these are challenges where you're not wearing a wetsuit. But that's the traditional marathon swimming rules. So, there's some places in there which, probably colder than jumping in. Is it the Hudson, Lake Superior? Is that Chicago, or what's the?
Yeah, you got Lake Michigan in the winter. That's Michigan, pretty cold. Superior is even colder.
Yeah, geez. But that's the sort of thing. Like, you're looking at bloody Baltic water. So the distance is one thing. They're all marathon in distance or ultra marathon in distance, 25 Ks and up, and you get freezing cold temperatures. Salt. Some fairly sharky waters. all these real big variables that you'd have to contend with. So I'm looking at this and reading it and thinking, right, I'd love to have a crack at this, and no one's ever done it in a year before. So maybe there's a chance to go and do this, see if I can become the first person to do it in a year, try break as many world records for speed crossings as possible, take this performance mindset and apply it to here and see what I can put together, and use this entire journey to raise money for mental health and share all these powerful messages and all the learnings that I pick up along the way. But before I jumped into that, I thought, well, I better do a few more of these ultra marathons to make sure that it wasn't just a one-off fluke here at Rottnest, and I actually enjoy what I'm doing and just get a bit more experience under the belt. So a lot of the countries, the major swimming countries around the world, have their own what they call triple crowns, which are like 3 different ultramarathon swims. And Australia has a triple crown, which is 3 events, one in Western Australia, one over east in Sydney, where you go down all the length of the northern beaches, and one in Tasmania. So I set out to do those first before jumping straight into the Ocean 7. And yeah, you learn a lot of things that you didn't plan on learning.
I'm sure.
Had my first ever swim in the night and in the cold. I had done zero preparation for either of those, which was very naive, and it was a steep learning curve, but a good way to learn. And then swimming from Palm Beach to Shelley Beach in Sydney, it's 25 k's. The conditions got so bad that my boat broke down halfway through, and we got stranded out there. So, going through those swims and those experiences, as tough as they were at the time, they certainly put me in good stead for, we did manage to come through them, and they put me in good stead for what was to come with the Ocean 7. It's all part of the learning, all part of the preparation that sets you up for those future challenges that you might encounter in the future.
Sure. I want to specifically ask a couple questions about the Ocean 7, just because it's such a big thing to wrap your head around. I think both in terms of the physical demands, like you mentioned. So I want to hear more about the physical preparations for Ocean 7, but also just from a logistical component, because you decided to do them within a year. So can you tell me more about how you specifically prepared the logistics, and then how you were preparing your body along the way to get ready for it?
So logistically, to sum it up in a word, it's a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Some of these swims have these huge multi-year waiting lists, because it's not like you turn up to Dover Beach in England and you just swim across the channel, one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, and go to France. Like, there's certain pilots that are qualified to take swimmers across. They know the waters well, and they have the right boats to support you on that journey. You always have a team out there on the water with you, and that's one of the aspects that I love, is that you're not just out there on your own. You have all these other people, like the skipper who's in charge of the navigation, or your coach who's keeping you fueled and hydrated and motivated, giving you all the updates as you go through the swim. So every swim you have to organize that team and get them there, and then obviously your accommodation and on the ground transport. Like, it's a lot, and a lot financially as well. So I'd set out to do this, and we were coming out of the back of COVID, so there was a lot of uncertainty in the markets, and not many people were really open to the idea of sponsoring or supporting a challenge like that. But I'd saved up a bunch of money that was supposed to be used for a house. I thought, well,
I like that. Way better. That's what
I was
would
like,
do.
well, this is, you just don't know what's going to happen in the future. I could break a leg tomorrow. I might not want to do this in a couple of years' time. I might get a full-time job and be committed to that. But right now, I have this opportunity to take this on, and I'm in great shape, and I've got the finances. I don't really know what this entails fully, but I'm keen to dive in and learn as I go. And it was very much one of those build the plane in the sky type of campaigns where you almost need that little bit of naivety, because I think if you know what the road ahead looks like, you'd get daunted and be too scared to give it a real go. So I did. I dove in, and one of the first things I did was put together a team. So people that had experience in the areas I needed help. So people that had done some of these swims before, who could I learn from that could share about the challenges, what to expect, introduce me to people on the ground that might be able to help, like the skippers or like locals who might want to come out in the boat or train with, that I could train with when I'm there. People that could help me with the charity fundraising, because that was one of the big goals of this, that we could raise money through these challenges, get the word out there, and really make this quite exciting. So break records, make the news, but then try use that platform for this altruistic and advocacy work over here. And then you've got the training aspect of it all, and the physical preparation and the mental preparation. And so, being the good accountant that I am, I started with a spreadsheet.
Of course. You have to.
Exactly. So I wrote down all of the challenges that stood between me and where I wanted to get. And that could be the individual challenges, like if I broke down the Molokai channel, for example, it's 44 Ks, so distance. I'm going to have to prepare for that. Swimming in the night, because it's so long, it's going to span through the day and the night, so I'm going to have to become comfortable in that. Hot water is not as bad as cold water, but still, we're going to have to come up with a strategy to stay hydrated and not be affected by the salt and the sun. Big waves, there's 3-meter swells out there because you're a pin drop in the middle of the ocean and there's no massive land masses to block the rolling swells. So how are you going to deal with that? The wind, it's pretty, really, really stiff winds through there that can be quite adverse. Jellyfish, sharks, like, what are we doing in preparation for all of these things? And the way I look at it, like if you think of your comfort zone as a circle, what can I do to grow that as big as possible so that on race day, this is massive, and anything that happens out there on race day falls within this comfort zone? Or if it doesn't, then it's not massively outside of here. So, that swim in Molokai, I had my first ever shark encounter, and that's certainly outside of the comfort zone, like the circle. But we'd come up with strategies on how we would respond in those moments if something happened. And so you're not panicking trying to figure it out in the moment. You're there, you've got a calculated response. We had shark shields on the kayak. I would swim up next to the kayak. The shark shields, are these cables that emit these frequencies that drive away the sharks. So I swim up to the kayak, and then I know I'm not fully safe, but at least in a better position than I might have been. So, I think it's such a understated aspect of sport, the preparation side of things. Everyone likes to talk about resilience, which is very important. Resilience being, how you respond to challenges in the moment. But if you've not done the preparation, if you've not become robust being ready for the challenges ahead, like it doesn't matter how tough you are. If you've not prepared for the distance, you're not swimming 44 Ks to Oahu from Molokai. If you've not prepared for the cold, doesn't matter how tough you are, you're not swimming from Ireland to Scotland in 12-degree waters. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, maybe like 40 something. Maybe.
Yeah, 40s for sure.
Whew.
Yeah,
It's brisk. So,
yeah,
I think they go hand in hand, because obviously you prepare for as much as you can, but you are bound to experience adversity in these challenges. In a big endurance event where you're out there for such a long time, the mental aspect as well, when things don't go to plan or that fatigue starts to set in, that's when the resilience piece really starts to come to the forefront. And, I undoubtedly you would have your techniques as well. I think you really need to come in with that toolbox of or levers to pull when you get into the rough.
yeah, totally. I'm curious specifically on three things that you mentioned there. The preparation for just swimming something like 44K. So I want to hear more about, like, what does the day in, day out weekly training look like for the distance? What does the training look like for the cold? And then how have you trained for the sleep? Those were the three things that I extracted from what you said that I'm really curious to hear more about. So if you could elaborate on those 3 points in terms of the actual training elements, that I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, of course. I think for me, with the distance, there's very much two schools of thought where you have to be comfortable swimming those sorts of distances. My coach and I, we were probably on the other side where we were emphasizing more quality over quantity. We were probably doing about 30 Ks a week, which doesn't sound a lot. 5 swims, 6 Ks each, maybe 7 Ks each at times. But really in the zones that we wanted to be training. So, if I wanted to be very comfortable at 112 pace, I needed to be comfortable doing my short rest sessions per 100 under 110, so that I'd come back to 112s and that would feel like a dawdle. And if you think of the triangle, like first gear or max speed, trying to spend as much time either in both of those and a bit less in the middle. So yeah, your max and your threshold paces. The distance, the fitness and the muscle conditioning is one aspect. Your technique, really making sure, because swimming's such a technical sport, making sure that's sharp, because think how many strokes you're going to be taking in a 44-kilometer swim. If you can get just even like 1% more out of your stroke every time you make an arm pull, like that adds up over the distance. So we're really doing a lot of drills in our training. It doesn't matter how good you get, you can always keep on top and keep improving with your technique. And you're just trying to repeat the best possible stroke in your training, so that that's what you do out there, and doing it when you're tired as well, because that's what your stroke is going to revert to when you're in the middle of a big long swim. I did have something else I was going to talk about. Yeah, gym.
I do have one question. Oh yeah, I want to hear about the gym, but I think one thing our listeners will find really interesting and maybe appreciate your advice on is a lot of triathletes and swimmers will be doing that technical work in the pool, but have difficulty translating it to the open water when you do get things like chop, swell, in our case, wetsuit or a swim skin or whatever it might be. So what's one thing you would maybe recommend for folks who are trying to translate their pool swimming over to the open water from a technical perspective?
Gain experience. Just keep getting more experience in those choppier conditions. I think people on a rainy day, or maybe not a rainy day, but when it's windy and it's choppy, they skip that opportunity to go and swim in the open water. When in reality, if we think of that circle of comfort, if you're not practicing in those rougher conditions, but if that's what you experience out there in your race day, then you are out of your element. So, trying to remember the fundamentals, what keeps you moving forward, where do you get propulsion, usually in your arm pull, from here to here. Understanding what makes you move forward, and then just trying to make sure that you're applying those things, those concepts in the open water. Your stroke's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to adjust with the wind and the chop and the waves. But the more you do it, and the more you get that feel and comfort in the open water, the better place you're going to be on race day, and the less energy you're going to burn from stressing as well.
Sure. And then the gym, you were going to mention how you maybe tie that into, because I think 30K a week, I would have definitely probably guessed that you were doing, 2x5K a day, maybe 60K a week or something like that for ultra marathon swimming. So do you feel as though with a more precise approach with 30Ks a week of swimming, good quality swimming, and then implementation of gym, you can get there? I guess the question is, what are you doing in the gym that's maybe filling that gap?
The gym work is more around mobility and strengthening the ligaments and these sort of supporting muscles, because that's what's going to fatigue in these longer swims. Like when I first started doing ultra marathons, I remember, I think my hip flexors just getting smashed, and it's just because your legs are going like that. They're not even kicking that hard, but it's just for the duration of 5 hours and beyond that adds up. So what can we be doing to strengthen and make more durable these tinier supporting muscles so that they're not fatiguing and really tying up out there in the water that is so noticeable that that's all you can think about at the 5 hour mark of one of these swims. So being strong, because if you can swim easier, if you can swim faster, let's say if you're thinking of threshold pace, if you can make your threshold pace a little bit quicker, easier, for the same effort input, then when you're out there on race day, let's use the Rottnest channel swim as an example. If you can get across further with the same amount of effort, because you've been doing gym and you've become stronger and faster, you're exposing yourself to less changes in the weather. Here, I'm pointing out there because that's the direction of it, but here, the wind always comes up in the afternoon. So if you're an 8 hour swimmer versus a 5 hour swimmer, you're getting the brunt of the worst weather possible. So if we can make ourselves a bit faster, we can usually give ourselves better opportunities when we come to these types of swims, these ultra marathon events like an English Channel, like a Rottnest channel swim. So the gym aspect is good. And, if you think of it all together, like, yes, it's nice to be able to know that you can do the distance like a 44 kilometer swim. I'd say to most people that are doing Rottnest, which is 19Ks, make sure that you can swim 15Ks. Maybe do it once and do it like a month out. But that's more for the mental benefit or the psychological component that I can do this distance. But I don't want to be putting myself in a hole, because then the quality of my training the following week might suffer, and the following week after that, like I'm trying to look at the whole block and the whole picture, and not having any boom and bust where, you have these spikes of 1 week's amazing and then you're less than average the following couple of weeks. Like, what can we be doing to make the upwards trend, to make the trend upwards, but just, it's not all about how hard you go in training. It's about being smart and recovering well as well, which I think is one of your questions about this. Oh no, you were asking about the sleep deprivation.
Yeah, those are the next two things that I wanted to hear more about. So I'm curious to hear specifically how you prepared for, like, in the Ocean's 7, how you prepared for just the overnight sleep element. Did you do any midnight 5K swims?
So with the night swimming, it's a hugely mental thing, because You're tired. There's no sun. If it's cold, like Scotland, swimming at night time is bloody freezing, and you lose that psychological benefit of the sun on your back. And you can't see what's in the water. But you cannot see beyond the ends of your fingertips. And it's one of those ones where, in an ideal world, you would train it. So, go down to the beach at night. You don't want to be out there on your own, of course. So if you can get a kayaker, they hop in with you and they have, a torch on so that you can see them, or fairy lights or whatever it is. And you're just practicing swimming beside them. That's how you would prepare for swimming in the night, and just building up that zone of comfort, or by getting experience during these swims. I don't think you ever really get comfortable swimming in the night. I think it's always one of those things that just feels wrong, or not wrong, but it feels different. And like you jump in and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's part of the challenge. When you're out of that comfort zone, how quickly can you bring yourself back into it and stay calm? Use your tools like your breathing, or positive visualization, or positive affirmations, having the team beside you so that you know that you're not out there on your own. Like, all these things help. The sleep deprivation, I think, is one of those ones you learn by doing. And my longest ever swim's been 16 hours. So I've never had to go beyond the 24 hours. I'm not sure how runners do it with these insane ultra marathon runs. But, if I was going to ever do a 100K swim, for example, like, that would be one of the first things I do. Go and speak to someone that's done it and ask them these questions. How did you prepare? What helped you get through those moments? Like, is there anything that you would do if you were in my position? Like, what would you do differently? What worked? What didn't? I think asking what didn't work as well is equally important, because, then you can avoid those mistakes as well.
100%. And then what were you doing to prepare for the cold? Because I feel like anything under 60 degrees or like 16, 17 degrees Celsius, I need a wetsuit. Otherwise, I'm going to be shivering in 2 minutes. So what was the preparation for the cold like when you're in there for hours on end and keeping that core body temperature elevated?
This was the hardest bit, I think, of these types of challenges. For me, preparation was a lot of ice baths, a lot of cold showers. So not even getting a hot shower after you go training. Like, that's horrible.
Yeah.
And swimming, our local river here is the Swan River. And so Australian wintertime is Northern Hemisphere summertime. So when you pick these swims, when you pick the windows for them, you're trying to give yourself the best possible chance. So if I'm going to go swim the English Channel, I'm going to do it in the height of summer when it's warmest. I'm not going to pick December, where the weather's crap and the water temperature is freezing. So that worked out quite well. Your lead-in was Australian wintertime. So I was in swimming in the river. And I think that's important to recreate what you're going to experience as much as possible. Like, sitting in an ice bath is good, but you're sitting static. Your heart's not elevated. You're not moving. So versus swimming in the Swan River in, I think it was 14-degree waters on cold, cloudy days, where it's recreating that same feeling you're going to experience out there swimming from England to France. Like, that's the ideal scenario. If you can get access to that, then do that. So that's what we were trying to do. And it started off very gently, where I'd just go for a 15-minute swim and just try stay in as long as I could. Didn't matter what sort of speed or energy zone I was in. It was just pure acclimatization. But then we would start tweaking it and adding on time, or adding on, training at different paces, swimming in the dark. Like, you can progress these exercises so that you build that circle of comfort as much as possible. But the other aspect of cold water swimming, or the preparation, which is more something when it's out there, is utilizing your feeds. And that's what we call them in swimming, your drinks, when you take on fueling, because that can be really key in staying warm. If you heat your feeds up and keep them like piping hot, so that when you take them during an event, that's heating you up from your core and from your inside, and giving you energy, but giving you that motivation and that psychological boost when you keep on going.
Sure. So I'm just curious as well, now that you've mentioned it, the feeds in particular, because with swimming, you're burning quite a lot of energy. You're burning quite a lot of carbohydrate. What do the feeds, and also the length is quite long, right? Like if you're swimming 44K, it's taking you multiple hours, like you said, 16 hours or something. So are you relying mostly on something like a precision fuel and going, carbohydrate heavy drink mixes, gels, stuff like that? Or are you mixing in real food? How are you implementing the hot element? Like, are you heating up gels and getting sports drink warm? What does that all look like?
Yeah, it's a great question, Justin. And the fueling is a huge aspect of one of these challenges. Like, you cannot swim 44Ks without taking on some kind of fueling or staying hydrated. For me, it was a bit of a journey going down this path and understanding how to approach it. Like when I was doing Rottnest, I started off by asking people what they were doing. And I got all sorts of answers. Like, some people were taking Gatorade. Some people were chowering down a tin of beans. One guy, a Swiss guy that I spoke to, had one banana for the entire swim.
Wow.
He'd eat half of it at the halfway and then the other half at 17Ks. And I'm like,
wow.
I don't know if that's the approach I want to take, but
yeah, 20 grams of carbs, 19K.
But I ended up reaching out and getting a bit of some expert advice, and it was, funnily enough, the woman Christy Robson. She was the one that put me onto precision back all those years ago. And when you're swimming, it's not like when you're on a bike or you're running, because you can't just grab a bottle whenever. You're not carrying a bottle with you. It's not like you run past an aid station and you get to choose whatever you want. There's a logistical challenge to it as well. So I wanted to try keep my stuff liquids, because we've got the support team beside us. I can get a bottle passed down to me quite easily. I don't have to unwrap some kind of packet. I can just pop the lid, or it could be open, and just put it straight down the hatch. Nice and simple. And it's easier on my gut. I'm not having to chew anything, which is difficult when you're swimming in the sea and salt starts getting in. It's not as heavy on the gut. It's not sitting in my stomach. It passes through into the bloodstream quite quickly. And I can do things with this. Like, I can heat it up if it's going to be cold out there. I can add in painkillers if I'm needing them. I can put in caffeine tablets if I need them, and just crush them up into a liquid and ingest it all quite easily in the one go. So that's what I sort of decided I'd go with. My sports nutritionist, we targeted about 100 grams of carbs an hour. So the way we would approach it, we would do our carb load in the week leading up, getting topping up the glycogen stores, eating just all the usual stuff like your white rices and pastas and so forth. And the way I saw it, that was setting me up for the first half of a swim. And then what I'm taking out there is what's going to help bring me home. So I've got my fueling, I'm taking on my hydration, because when you're out there in the water, you're burning a lot of energy to stay warm. If you're somewhere like Hawaii or where it's very sunny, you're going to be sweating as well. I think it's a bit of a myth that you don't sweat in the ocean or sweat in a swimming pool, but you certainly do. So, at a later stage, we started determining those sweat loss rates. And, what I would love to do is try testing it in different temperatures just to see what the impact would be. I think that would be a really interesting case study. Maybe the guys at Precision would be keen to do that. But we could really tinker with our feed strategies and make them very specific for the challenges that we were going to be taking on, because swimming in Hawaii is going to be very different to swimming in Scotland. I would try mix up the feeds that I was taking on, accessing different sugars so you're not pounding the gut with the same type all the time, but also changing the flavors and the tastes, because taste fatigue over 16 hours, especially when you've got a salty mouth, is a pretty horrible thing. So could we avoid that? And you also just get those like boosts psychologically. Like one of my feeds is a flat Coke. Like
Sure,
knowing that that's coming up is always quite nice. And yeah, I think just it's underestimated, but you get your feeding and your nutrition right, then A, you're less likely to hit the wall, crash. B, you can stay warm in those colder swims, and try to avoid hypothermia, because I think hypothermia mostly comes when your body is starting to shut down and you don't have enough energy to keep it warm in those moments. So it's a real asset to have a solid feed strategy coming into a race like that.
Yeah, very cool. Well, one thing that you mentioned a couple times earlier in the podcast was the tie-in to the charity element and you being an advocate for mental health. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about why you feel connected to that and sort of what, I guess your vision is as you continue to do these challenges and what the overarching goal is from the charitable side.
For sure. So I think for me, everyone experiences challenges in their life, or has known someone that's gone through a mental health, a tough time mentally. So it's one of those things that really just affects us all. I've had my struggles. My grandfather, who was one of my biggest role models in my life, he suffered with depression. So it's quite deep in our family and very personal and close to my heart. So, I'd love to help people. Swimming's been so good to me in terms of managing well-being that, being able to swim in the ocean, the endorphins that you get from exercise, being connected to nature. It's one of those moments, like I see you smiling here, like where you're not connected, or like you don't have your phone, you're not listening to music, you don't have your emails or notifications going, like you're just fully alone with your own thoughts. And I think that's a rarity in today's world where you don't really get that time so much. And then the community aspect around it as well. The swims are one thing, but going for a coffee afterwards with your mates or doing an event with your mates, chasing goals, the journey, the enrichment that you get through those, like I think they're all things that really add to your life. And so I'd love to encourage more people to get into sport, hopefully swimming or any kind of discipline that they really enjoy and love, and can find those benefits of being part of something and being or belonging to a community. I think that can all help. I would love to see a world where kids are taught the tools that they need to navigate life, because like a marathon swim, you go in with your best foot forward, but you encounter all of these things that you didn't plan on encountering. The broken boat, shark sighting. I've swum into unforecasted storms. We've ran out of feeds on the boat. Like all of these things where you have to adapt at the time. And they push you off course. Like I had a swim, it was Molokai. I had a swim. In that swim, we actually got halfway across and discovered that we'd been pushed so far off course that we'd not actually made any forward progress. We'd, I think, covered 3 kilometers in the last 2 hours, so 1.5 k's an hour, taking 4 minutes to do 100 meters in a 44-kilometer swim lane. The psychological battering an update like that causes, like, it's, and you feel like you've lost hope. You're like, I don't know how I'm going to keep on going. I don't know how I'm going to manage another 5 minutes, never mind another potentially 10 hours. Like, this is mad. I think everyone experiences those moments in life where they feel lost or they feel pushed off course and they don't know how to keep on going. And I think there's so many messages in endurance sport that we can learn from over here and apply to over here, or share with other people on how to get through those moments. You know, reconnecting with your why, having your support team around you, breaking the challenges down into manageable steps. You know, if you're climbing Everest, you don't look to the summit, you just put one foot in front of the other. You know, focusing on one thing like you're breathing, or, you know, in the darkness, there's always light. There's always a positive in those situations. Like in Hawaii, I remember flipping on my back in those moments and taking a massive breath, and there's just stars scattered across the sky. Like, it was just the most incredible sight. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to be here. Like, not everyone in the world gets to do this. Like, there's wars going on. I could be at an office in an accounting firm right now, but I'm not. I'm here at my own will, swimming across the Molokai Channel. And yes, it's damn tough, but this is a privilege. And you've got all these people here by your side going through this with you. Let's find a way to keep on going, even if it's just for another 15 minutes, and just see what happens there and just break it down into the most manageable chunks. But these are all skills that I think can be taught to others. So, you know, when it comes to mental health, yeah, the ultimate dream would be that gets taught in schools and it forms part of the school curriculum, giving kids the tools to navigate life's challenges, because they're going to happen. And I think if we use our voices loud enough, we all have a voice. Athletes, like, we all have platforms. We all have people that follow what we're doing. There's all these people that their lives we manage to touch without us probably even realizing. Like, you've got this podcast here, all the people that are listening, like, there's an opportunity to share these kinds of messages. And if it's just one person that listens to this and feels inspired or shares that message with another person, like it really resonated with them, then, you know, I think we've done our job. Like, we've done a really good job. And, you know, I grew up with an Indonesian mother. That's part of the reason why I'm inspired to do what I do nowadays. Like, I used to go out and visit my family over there, and there's a lot of inequality, and you know, it can be quite confronting, and I always wanted to do something. I feel like doing this, what I'm good at, and using that platform to help others, and even if it's just as small as sharing a message, I think that's, yeah, I enjoy it, and hopefully it's helping.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Like, I love that you're able to sort of pair, what you're passionate about, but also have it go through the lens of giving back and trying to inspire. And I think, I think similarly about triathlon and endurance sport. It's been such a value add to my life, both, career wise, but mentally and physically. And I have so much, I guess, gratitude for the fact that this sport found me. I'm sure you feel similarly about swimming. And I just want to give back in whatever capacity I can. And the fact that you're doing it in the ways that you can are really, it's inspiring, and it's just exceptional, and just keep up the good work. So love to see it. Before we wrap up the podcast, I've got some rapid fire questions. So you ready to hit them? I've got 6 for you today.
Let's do it.
All right. Number one, what's the most, I know you said that you stuck to, the simple liquid hydration, but what's the most surprising mid swim food that is really good and just hits the spot?
I do like a flat Coke.
Hard to beat.
But it's a bit of a surprise. If I'm going a bit left field, I once had soup in the middle of a swim, like a big salty broth. I got so sick of all my feeds, and it was swimming from Catalina to Los Angeles, and I wanted to try something different. And the guys were scouring about the boat. Sorry, this is not very quick, rapid fire.
No, it's fine. You're good. We don't have any rules.
That's what they found. They found this broth, and it just hit the spot. I was cold. I was feeling a bit sorry for myself, and I had this broth, and it picked me back up. So
yeah. I would have guessed a broth. I would have gone with broth because they have that late in Ironman marathons. If you're going 15 hours and you're getting home in the dark, they have soup out there for folks. So I would have guessed soup. That's a good one. What's your favorite PF&H product that you're using all the time?
I'd say the gels. Yeah,
I agree.
Their gels are really spot on.
You go caffeine or no caffeine?
No caffeine usually.
Okay. I get a little bit too aggressive on the caffeine every once in a while. So I got to check myself. The yellow. Sometimes I say it's an accent, but it's not really. I'm going into the left bin and reaching for the yellow sometimes. All right. If you had to do a crossing but you couldn't do freestyle, what stroke are you choosing?
Backstroke. Yeah,
breaststroke would be impossible.
Breaststroke, you're getting the shin splints.
Why? No way.
It depends what the goal was. Like if it was a charity fundraiser, actually, I would need a new set of arms if I tried to do butterflies. Let's stick with backstroke. I grew up as a backstroker, right. So.
Oh, you got it unlocked then. You should just do it anyways, just for that would get some eyeballs on it, or even more. All right. How many seconds per 100 is the full swimmer body shave down worth?
Per 100. I mean, it depends how hairy you are, isn't it?
That's a good point. I'd say average, just average hairiness.
I'm quite hairless. I'm half Asian, so I don't have that much hair. So it's probably. I think there's a big psychological effect, the old placebo. So
sure.
I'm going to go half a second per 100.
Okay. Yeah. Worth it then. Worth it.
I think I would do it.
Sure. And so you mentioned the 16-hour swim. I'm curious to hear your longest or the most number of kilometers you've swum in 24 hours. That could be training. That could be in an ultra marathon. Most number of Ks in 24 hours.
Molokai. Yeah. 50.
44.
It was 44. We had to make a decision as a team to push north, which added on an extra 10 Ks. that moment where we weren't making any forward progress, we pushed north, and a bit brutal, sure. But that took us out the current. So 54 Ks. Manhattan was 46 Ks. So if you're going with what was supposed to be the longest swim, Manhattan.
And then, all right, cool. And last one here. When are you coming over to Ironman to break the Ironman Kona course record? Because you would have that locked easy.
Well, if you can put together a team, get me in.
All right. You got me in for the bike of the run. Easy.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, cool,
PF&H
man.
team. I would love that. I mean, I haven't been to the Big Island, and Hawaii's such a special place. I think that would be epic.
Yeah, would totally be epic. Well, I appreciate the time. It was so good getting to know you, and so many awesome takeaways here today. And just appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks, mate. It was I really enjoyed that one, and let's make this Kona team happen then.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's another episode of the Endurance Matters podcast. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.